Creativity is just your ability as a human to come up with ideas and then put them into action.
You have this ability to make phenomenal pictures and to show people how amazing they are as people. That is the gift, and it's pretty special.
For a lot of us, we just aim too low with those intentions. We say, I want to travel, or I want to make X amount of money. And those things are usually pretty attainable to some point. And once we get there, what happens next?
One of the most liberating things as an artist is to remind yourself that you don't have to please everybody. Once you give yourself permission to not have to please everybody, then you can start creating without fear.
With basically anything, there's the art of it, and then there's the business side of it, the logistics of it, the structure of it.
Your excitement is like a compass, and it points you in a certain direction. And when you walk or run in that direction, life seems to just align itself.
Hello, creatives. Welcome back to the ARC Creative Podcast. This podcast is all about digging into the minds of creatives, understanding their stories, digging into their creativity, and learning more about what motivates and inspires them to create so that we can take action to create ourselves. We hope to inspire you to become better artists and entrepreneurs by learning from the best in the arts and business. I'm your host, Sachin Khona, and thank you again for tuning in and joining us. In this episode, we're going to be speaking to documentary family photographer Niki Boon, who uses the medium of black and white photography as a way to document the journey of her 4 children growing up in New Zealand. With her camera acting as a visual diary, she strives to tell a deeper story in a picture using light and the uniqueness of her family life. Inspired by her children and rural lifestyle, Niki takes advantage of the unstructured days of her children's lives to dive deeper into how children live and think. Today, she is sharing what she has learnt about the earth and nature through her children's eyes and how photography has enabled her to take a step back and breathe. Niki believes in opening people's eyes to the stories that are right in front of them by following your creativity and getting back down to basics. I really want to say that this conversation I enjoyed a lot with Niki Boon. We were having a few internet connectivity issues, but my team have done a great job in stitching this conversation together. So if it does get a bit choppy in the middle, you know why. Again, I absolutely adore Niki Boon, and I wanted to take this opportunity to get to know Niki and her family a lot more about their life in New Zealand. And if you're not familiar with her, then please pause this episode, go to her website, take a look at her images first, and then come back to the show. Wherever you are, I really hope you enjoy this conversation with Niki Boon. This episode is sponsored by The Experience Masterclasses. The Experience is a 3-day photography conference happening this October 2018 from the 23rd to the 25th in Vancouver, BC. 10 creatives will join us from all over the world, and last week we announced 10 more speakers, each presenting for 15 minutes as part of our Big Ideas mini presentation segment at the event. And big news, we're now over 80% sold out, which means there's only about 25 tickets left to grab. However, you can still join us at our Masterclass Day, which is exclusive to ARC attendees and now open to the public. These classes take place on October 22nd. But first, what is The Experience? ARC comes to life in the form of a conference each year, and it's for all photographers and creatives from wedding, portrait, commercial, fashion, and fine art communities. Our masterclasses are full-day or half-day workshops spent with an expert teacher of your choice. Get exclusive training, learn insider techniques, and have your most pressing questions answered. If you're ready to dive even deeper into your discipline and you value private, intimate learning environments, this bonus day will be right up your alley. Classes include Defining Your Individual Style with Hugh Whitaker, How to Sell Without Selling, Maximizing Your Print and Digital Sales with Kirk Mastin of Mastin Labs, SEO Like a Boss with Catalina Jean. Junebug Weddings are here, and they're going to be talking about Pinterest for wedding photographers. You can learn the tools for building stronger storytelling pictures with Niki Boon. And we have Ross Harvey teaching you mind mechanics. There's so many more. And once again, this is open to everyone. You can register for The Experience, the conference, and save $100 off any class. And there's even the option to combine a few of these classes together too. So you can really maximize the one day that we have together on October 22nd. Head to www.experience.thisisarc.co for more information. And don't forget to follow us on social media by going to Instagram and Facebook and searching @ArcThisIs. Welcome to the show, Niki. How are you?
Good, thank you. Yeah, good. You guys having a good summer up there?
Yeah, it's been beautiful and hot. No fires that I know of as yet. Yeah, well, I guess before we even start this recording, you were with your kids and there was a bit of an accident or something that happened. I'd love to.
There's a little bit of blood, a little bit of angst going on there. And I have one child who tends to deal with his anger quite physically. That's okay. It's all right. They heal.
Fair enough. They're healed now. And what are they up to right now?
There's some sort of game going on there that involves lots of, they're inside because it's pretty cold outside today. So there's a lot of animals. I don't delve too much into what they do because then I get lengthy explanations that last half a day. So I just saw that they were happy.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
They develop these like very complex worlds that they do with their whatever they've got. I think today it involves spoons and felt pens for some reason. I'm not entirely sure, but there you go.
How are your days set up with the kids? Do you guys kind of like map out what you're going to be doing the next day, or is it on the fly?
No, so we have a very unstructured way that we go about our days, unless we've got an adventure or something planned. But we do have a lot of animals on our property, so that stuff needs to be addressed first. That's about the only structure as such that we have during our days, is that those animals are addressed first.
Beautiful. Which animals do you have?
We have a few goats, we have chickens and ducks. We've just acquired a rabbit that we're looking after for a few months. And we've also the big thing in our property at the moment is we've just got a couple of horses.
Oh, wow.
That's very exciting. We've got dogs, just and a few sheep.
Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. And do your kids look after, do they have like roles and responsibilities when it comes to looking after these animals, or?
They do, but like all kids, they need a little pushing with those here and there. A little reminder.
Awesome.
A little reminder about where our food comes from and that they need to be looked after. Yeah.
Beautiful. I'd love to go more into that a bit later, but I guess for our guests and our audience who may not be aware of your kind of background and your story, can you tell us who is Niki Boon?
You mean in terms of photography?
In terms of photography and in terms of your life and...
Right. I'm a New Zealander, so I'm born and bred this country, and I was lucky enough to grow up quite rurally. So I grew up on a big farm and had the lifestyle, a wonderful lifestyle as a kid to grow up on this farm. Pretty much barring school, we were free to run on a huge amount of land, which was pretty fantastic. So I went through school just like nothing exciting, just like a normal kid's life, and studied to be a physiotherapist, traveled with that, and realized that I tended to listen to people's stories more than I did focus on treating them, and somehow discovered photography while I was over there. And although I never really picked it up as something serious, that was quite exciting. Came home, put the camera away because this country was just nowhere near as exciting as all those wonderful places that I saw while I was overseas for 4 years. And it just came out again when we had kids, I guess. Yeah, but I guess it didn't. I mean, it was just, birthday parties and things you've got to record as a parent.
Sure.
And it wasn't till we made the decision to keep our kids. So we decided not to send them to school. Our eldest spent, I think, a year at a Rudolf Steiner school, and then we decided that actually we're just going to wing it. And actually, no, we didn't decide we were going to wing it. I had these wonderful, grandiose ideas of having this beautiful schoolroom and teaching them all these things that I wanted to teach them from books and everything else. They, of course, had different ideas. So that didn't quite pan out the way I had it planned. And so it was just some convoluted path that we went down, and eventually we got to the point, initially for sanity's sake, of just letting them go, because we were just butting heads. So we just let them go, and it was through that process of realizing that actually they were learning far more from their own exploration than they ever did with me.
I kind of want to dig more into the places that you lived while you were traveling before you headed back to New Zealand. Could you tell us a bit more about? I believe you spent some time in Scotland.
Yeah, I've spent most of my time there, to be honest. And I was over for about 4.5 years. So as a New Zealander, you can get a 2-year working visa over in Britain. So I did that, and then traveled through. Where did I go? I went over to the States, went through Europe, spent months going through Europe. A little bit in North Africa, just as much as I could do. Basically, everything I earned, I put into some sort of travel. Did quite a bit of mountain biking in East Africa. That was pretty cool.
Wow.
That was just my total drive. I came home with nothing. So then I got it, because as a physio, I got contracted to a hospital over there so I could stay for another 2 years. And it's pretty fantastic. So they get 6 weeks. Somehow I managed to get 6 weeks holiday a year, which is unheard of. Like in our country, we get 3. So yes, that was cool. So wow. I could maximize. I just would take off like every weekend. I'd be gone. To me, it's the most phenomenal thing that you've got all these countries right at your doorstep. It still blows me away that just even the concept of driving to another country, like it's amazing, because for us here, Like the nearest country we have is Australia, and that's still from nearest point to nearest point, it's still 3.5 hours flight. And it's not like you're entering a different culture, really. So yeah, I just could not get enough of just getting as much as I could out of the time that I had.
Yeah, that's amazing. I definitely resonate with that. I'm a huge traveler myself, and being brought up in London, I always appreciated the fact that there were all these different cultures and countries around us, but it wasn't until I moved to Canada that, and not being home and surrounded by all these different cultures as much, that I really realized how lucky I was.
London is so multicultural as well. Like that city is it's just mind blowing. It's almost too much until you sort of step away from it and then go back to it and you're okay with it. It's just, and like everything, you have everything on your doorstep. Yeah,
it's a beautiful, beautiful city for sure. But it's my kind of attraction to nature and being out in, just having close access to mountains and the ocean and being able to go on hikes. That really drew me to Canada. And I imagine, I really resonate with your kind of, definitely your imagery, but your lifestyle and the choices, I guess, that you've made to have your family and raise them in a place where they're so in tune and so close to nature and have that access. What was it that made you have that lifestyle and stick to that and not have them grow up in a city?
I mean, I guess that's all I've known. And I have to say that while I loved every second of being over in Scotland and in the cities and in traveling to countries, I knew that I couldn't come home at any point during that time, because if I did, I probably wouldn't have left again. Just that awareness of what we have in this country in terms of the freedom and the space and like the rivers and the beaches and the bush and the mountains and everything that we have here. And I guess that's in my heart and my soul. And that's all I knew when I was growing up. So it was pretty deep. And my husband too. So we knew that that's what we wanted for our kids. But to be honest, it's hard not to have that for any kid that grows up in this country, because it's in your ethos. I mean, it's everywhere. We really only, we have some cities, but even those are, banked by bush and mountains and hills. So it's in every child's ethos, I think, when you grow up in this country.
What do you think that folks living out in the city are missing by not being grounded and by not having that close access to rivers and mountains, or just being close to nature?
It's a really big call to sit here and say what they're missing out on, because everybody chooses their life because of what is best for them, and
100%.
Yeah. So and likewise for their children, because they will choose the life that is best for their circumstances and for what their children have, and they will make the most of that. So it's a tricky, I don't really want to sit here and say they're missing out on this, that, and everything else, because there'll be something else that they have that's enriching their lives, that's different.
And I guess not really missing out, but, as humans, I feel there's a connection with nature that we're kind of losing when you're always surrounded by concrete and in buildings and in front of iPads and iPhones. I feel that when we're always inside these structures, there's a disconnect there.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's ironic that there are actually kids in school learn about nature from books when it's kind of all out there. But I think, I've learned more about the earth and nature and things just from my kids being immersed in it too. But I think sometimes it's really easy to get, this is just an observation and it's just a thought of mine, but it's really easy to get on that cog of, I've got to do this and I've got to do that, and not stop to look outside of that. And I think that that's one thing that being outside in nature really can do, is just make you stop and think about the world and not the material. And I guess the other thing that I was trying to get to is that it's quite humbling to have that realization when you're watching how phenomenal an ant is to do what it does. Watching a river rise after a big rain and the floods come on, and knowing that there's nothing you can do about that. I just think it's just realizing how much of a very small part we are in this really bigger world that we're in.
100%. And how do you, is there something that you're wanting to capture within the imagery and the stories that you're telling through your family?
I just thought of that. Maybe there is. not intentionally, obviously. But yeah, I think there's an element of that. I think for me, it's I always love to picture their freedom that they have within, that they're just so free to be in this world that's so open to them. But I guess there's an element of that in there that, and I do, like there are a lot of pictures that I take where they are very small in the scene. And there's definitely an element of that, just that's actually the way it is. We are very, very small.
Definitely. And so with your imagery of your children, I'd love to know, I guess, like a bit more about them, really, and maybe some of the lessons that they've taught you through capturing them. And I imagine, you're guiding them and teaching them and giving them the space to be free within nature in New Zealand. But could you tell us a little bit more about the kind of characters that we're seeing in the images, and then perhaps some lessons that they've taught you?
Yeah. Again, that's really humbling to realize just how much you think you need to do as a parent, but you really don't. Just how much they have the capacity to take on their own learning. So I have 4 children. The eldest is Kurt, and he is 14. And it was him that led the whole thing, to be honest. He's wonderfully self-motivated and is very good at making things. So yesterday, what was he doing? He's into his mountain biking, so he was building ramps and trying to figure out the right angles to get the right distance that he wanted to get from the ramp to the actually he'd set up the trailer to land on the trailer and do all these things. So he's great. He's sort of always has a project on the go. He's very musical too, so which is phenomenal. I have absolutely, clearly that did not come from me. Yeah, and yeah, he's just taken this stuff and run with it, which is pretty cool. And then there is Becca, who is 13 in every sense of the word, and she has phenomenal will and determination and fight in her, which is sometimes difficult to work with. But she's amazing. She's like an animal whisperer. So she's the one that sort of is out with the animals all the time, and she just knows all of them very, very well. And the horses are pretty much her project. She's been asking for horses for years and years and years, and we've finally relented. And but it's exciting. It's exciting to watch her work with them and to watch her really understand the horse and that partnership involved between them. So that's pretty cool. And then my third, Anton he's amazing. So he's very, very busy. He has no concept of sitting still. He's the child who has at least 4 or 5 books on the go with various bookmarks.
Wow.
All the time. Like he just has, and he's project based too. So he'll have something will come in his head and he'll go with that, and with lengthy descriptions of all of them. So yeah, and him and the youngest Arwen. They spend a lot of their time creating these amazing worlds with all the stories attached. Whether it's with Lego or whether it's outside with yesterday they were pulling apart an old dishwasher, and he'd found the bits and had somehow masterminded some, I don't know, it's always fighting or something with wars and things that they have all these weaponries and stuff. But he'd pulled out one of the discs and one of the spinners. And so it's amazing. They live in these worlds. And Arwen's the youngest, and she lives permanently. It's a beautiful place that she lives in. I don't even pretend to understand half of it, but as far as she's concerned, the whole world is full of rainbows and fairies and all the magical stuff that goes along with it. And long may that last, I say.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, there's something magical about just seeing the beauty and the beauty in everything. Yeah. And
yeah, she really does. It's a beautiful thing to be a part of. And what have they taught me? They've taught me to, I'm somebody who wants to be in it and doing. I'm very much a doer, and I want to, okay, let's go and do this and let's do that. But they've actually taught me to sit back and to just let things unfold. And the photography's helped me with that too. Just to sit back and watch things unfold. In fact, they've tried to teach me that, but it's been the photography that's actually enabled me to do that, because I still feel like I'm doing something, even if I'm just sitting there with the camera.
What did they teach you this morning?
Tolerance and how to breathe. Yeah, this morning. They're a really neat reflection on who you are, and that's always nice. difficult, but yeah, that's pretty cool. So it makes you stop and think a little bit. And we're really lucky because we're lucky enough to have the time to realize these things. And we try really hard to not be rushing off to, I mean, they all do various things, dramas and everything, swimming and all the things that they do, but we try really hard to give them the space and in turn gives ourselves the space to just be.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And which one of your 4 kids were you most like as a kid?
Definitely the second. Yeah, definitely. She's challenging, so strong in her head, but also not terribly flexible with it. So that's been really interesting watching that unfold. And you know what, my mum died when I was in my late teens, and what I wouldn't give to now have like 5 minutes to say, I'm sorry, that must have been really difficult.
And Anton, you mentioned he's always reading several books at one go and is very project based. Is that something that you find you were like as a kid?
Yeah, I think just very busy in my head, probably. But it's, it's really hard to compare because these guys have quite a different lifestyle to what I had with, it's the same as everyone. Just went to school, spent most of your time at school, and it was really only in the summer holidays that you got to have that time to really be who you were. And a lot of that childhood stuff is just my memories. I don't have anyone to really ask. Like my mother isn't here anymore, and my father is very much like, I don't remember any of that stuff. So it's just my recollections. But as far as I am now, definitely the middle two, both their the busyness and their seriousness. Yeah.
Are any of your children into photography, or do they? Not
really.
They dive into?
No, that doesn't really. I mean, I'm sure half of it's because they've had a camera in their face all their life. So why would they need to be? Yeah. They see it. They're okay with it. Although funny, the other day, my Anton, he was reading a book with my mother-in-law, and they were looking at the pictures, and all I heard him say was, sorry, I'm giggling. It's so funny. He was like, can you see how your eye goes to that part of the picture? And the way that they've done that is because the way the light is, and that they've got this bit. And he was just, I'm like, wow.
Oh, wow.
So while he doesn't actually have a camera, he's got like all this stuff going on inside there. I'm like, oh, wow. And my mother-in-law was like, oh, I've not looked at a picture like that before. Yeah.
Wow. That's beautiful. And I wonder what would happen if maybe a film camera or something in their hands as they're doing their adventures, and then in 30 days or whenever you get, I guess it's not that long anymore, but as time goes on, once you get the photos back, and then they can look back and see what they were up to. And I miss that feeling personally myself, but for the kids, instead of having that instant gratification with digital cameras.
Yeah. I guess it's a different thing, isn't it? We try, and so much is instant in this world at the moment. Like, it's really hard as a parent to try and instill a little bit of that. Actually, things don't come the instant you want them, when they know that actually it does, if they want it to. We do have one advantage, if you can call it an advantage here. So I know that recently I was in the States, and I was talking to somebody about how you can, this is probably nothing new to you, but you can buy something from Amazon and the next day it can be on your doorstep. Seriously?
Yeah, totally.
Or if you live in New York, it can be on your doorstep that afternoon. So we can't, I mean, here, if you buy anything, you're looking at 3 weeks for anything to get here. So, we do have at least some of that still remains. Even if you buy something online, you're still waiting for weeks for it to get here. So we can hold on to a little bit of that. Actually, I was going to say, Anton is we don't have TV, but they are, like, movies are a very special thing, but we do watch movies here and there, and Anton's absolutely obsessed with anything Star Wars. So he almost like he lives his world looking through a video camera sometimes, just because that's how he makes things up. So yeah, watch his space. Who knows?
I feel out of the four kids and the ones that you've and what you mentioned about them, I feel I personally would resonate with Becca. I'd love to be able to have that close connection with horses and Arwen to just just kind of live in my own little world and just kind of explore and use my imagination a lot more. It's something that I'm definitely working on. So I just wanted to throw that in there as how I've been resonating with your kids. And definitely as I see the images now, it'll just mean that much more to me as I see.
Yeah. Maybe that would be pretty cool if that comes out through an image. But yeah, Arwen lives in a beautiful but crazy place.
Do you feel you're inspired right now?
With life, yes. With photography, it comes and goes. It's a pretty tricky patch with photography at the moment, particularly of my kids, because they're growing up, and not that I photograph them any less, but it's just trying to figure out how to tell the new story, I guess, because it's a new chapter, especially for my big two kids. And I haven't really got my head around how. In fact, I have picked up my camera for a little while, so that's a good push to do that again. So, but never stop being inspired, but a little bit of problem solving with how to do what I want to do. But am I inspired right now? I always.
What makes you curious, or what makes you want to pick up your camera?
This whole, where my photography's at the moment is all being sparked from my kids. I am curious about what it is to live a life that they live with very little have-tos and conformity. That I'm very curious about that. And that's largely what inspires me in terms of my photography for now. And people in general, like not just my kids. It's just, I'm fascinated with people and relationships with other people, but relationships with the world.
Besides the adventures that you have locally to home, do you have any adventures with the rest of the world coming up? Anything over the next few months?
I'm going to Canada in October, which is very exciting.
Yes, you are.
And what makes it even more exciting is that I have a brother and sister-in-law who have moved over to Khona, and they moved over a year ago, and I am going to be able to see them. But I have been to Canada once before, and it is such a cool country. So I'm like really excited to go back.
Oh, fantastic. And are your whole family coming out to Canada as well then, or?
Oh, I wish. It's such a long way from here. That would just be, that would be amazing. But no, we thought and we tried really hard to make that happen, but there's just a lot of them.
Fair play.
And they take up seats on the plane and, it costs. Yeah.
So what, do you have any adventures planned with your family while you're out here?
No, just enough just to see them. My husband was lucky enough to go out in your winter, actually just gone. And just to see them would be cool. We don't have anything planned. It'll probably just be a couple of days.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, if you need any advice or tips or, you know where to find us and the art community, definitely happy to help you.
Will do.
In the online interview that we did, so on thisisarc.co, we did, for the audience that may not know, ARC started off as an interview website, and earlier this year we interviewed Niki there first, and I highly recommend you guys checking that out. One of the things that you said within that interview was the following: I feel that photography is a gift. As cliche as I'm sure this must sound, I have a real yearning to give this gift to others. Can you expand on what you mean by this, please?
Yeah, I don't think I'm gifted. I was just listening to that. I'm like, oh, no, I'm not gifted, if that comes across like that. No, there is no talent or gift in that. It's just hard work. But I think that the skills that have been gained from learning and doing the work around that, then you now have this thing. And I've taken pictures of my kids, and I think that the pictures are a gift. They're a gift to me. They're a gift to them. And I've taken pictures for others, and it's just such an amazing gift to give. Like, you have this ability to make phenomenal pictures and to show people how amazing their lives are and how amazing they are as people. And I think that is the gift. And it's pretty special. It's a different way of looking at it, I guess.
Totally. And we're excited to have you here in Canada at the Experience at ARC. If you could share a bit more about your presentation and what you'd be speaking about this October.
I was just trying to figure out how to surmise exactly what I'm going to talk. I guess it's just a collection of thoughts, I think. I just decided to talk a little bit about my journey because it's been quite an interesting journey. I've learned quite a lot along the way, and it's all a little bit in combination with the photography, but it's also, it kind of sounds a bit weird, but it's also what my kids have taught me about photography in a loose kind of way, because they really have. Hopefully it's going to be a bit more interesting than what it sounds, but yeah, it's just what I've learned, my thoughts. I've taken online courses and I've been to, some workshops and conferences and stuff, but they've actually taught me more about the photography and what really matters for me than any of that stuff, in a nutshell. Beautiful.
We're all looking forward to hearing it. And I know from hearing about you speak at other conferences and other arenas, I'm very excited to hear it and just to meet you in person. And people also get the opportunity who are into documentary photography or are into family photography to learn from you personally as well, because you'll be doing an intimate masterclass that all our keynote speakers do while they're in Canada. And that was something that I'm passionate about because I feel, to have you come all the way from New Zealand to do the keynote is really special, but to then for our audience to actually get to dive in a bit deeper and for them to really learn directly from you and have that one-on-one or 1 to 10 connection is beautiful. So how could you tell us a bit more about your masterclass and how that will work?
It's such a great idea because I think there's only so much you can really talk about in an hour, but to go deeper into something for a day, I think it's such a cool idea. What I'm going to do. So what I'm going to do is I thought about this quite a bit, and I thought what I'm going to do is focus just on one aspect. And for me, probably hands down, the thing that has helped me with my photography the most is composition. And that's kind of because right at the very beginning, I was taking pictures of the kids and of what they were doing, but it very much was just a snap of what was in front of me. And I knew that the story I wanted to tell or the pictures I wanted to make were more than that. And it was composition and really doing the work and just hours and hours and hours of looking up and working away at that has, for me, been what's made the difference to my pictures. And so I think that's what I'd really like to share. So that's pretty much what it's going to be with, with a bit of personal anecdotes and all the rest of it in it, but that's what I'm going to focus on.
Fantastic. In our online interview, I asked if there was a creative that you'd love to see interviewed on ARC, and you mentioned Eugene Richards and Darcy Padilla?
Yes, Padilla. I think that's how it's pronounced.
Padilla? Okay, yeah. Cool. Got it right the first time.
Yeah.
Could you share a bit about what inspires you about these two photographers in particular?
They both do quite long-term documentary stories, and that's a big inspiration for me. But Eugene Richards, he just has this really powerful intimacy in his pictures. And I think, he gets in close, but it's more than just that. It's just the way that he can portray the story that's in front of him. It's so powerful and it's so, intimate. That's the words I use. And that's kind of the best way to describe it. And it just blows me away all the time. And he somehow manages to weave, I've got his book, Americans We, and he sort of weaves he realizes and appreciates that the pictures that he's making are as much him as they are about the story in front of him. And he can weave that in. And I just think that's it's an amazing thing to recognize. And to bring that out in a picture, I think is pretty amazing. And Darcy Padilla, she's got a story, a long-term project that she's done. And it's a similar thing. Her stories her pictures are so powerful, but I love the way that she can pull a really strong, a narrative, I guess, with the way that she puts her pictures together as well. It's just phenomenal. Beautiful. I think I'm mostly inspired by the fact that these really long-term stories that they dive right deep into. Yeah.
What is a good way for someone listening to start a long-term project?
I think some of it is realizing the stories are there in front of you and that you don't actually need to go very far for them. Because some of the most powerful stories I've seen in pictures are actually those ones that are not what you would on paper think was something that you would follow and expect it to divulge the way it has. That makes any sense at all.
Yeah, no, 100%. I resonate with the fact that the stories are there and they can be right in front of you. You don't need to go too far to find them.
Yeah, because everyone has a story, right? We all know that. Mm. We all know that everyone has a story. So it's just where you choose to go with it. Definitely.
And they're also interesting if you dive deep enough as well.
Mm.
Beautiful. Yeah. So what do the next few months look like for you before you head to Canada? I know I kind of asked about some adventures and you're going to be in Canada, but a bit closer to the experience. But anything else planned over the next few months?
I've got this workshop that I need to write, so there's that.
Yeah.
A little bit of a presentation. So it's winter here at the moment, so it's kind of quite nice to be able to knuckle down because we've got short days and long nights. But it doesn't kind of stop. Winter, we don't have snow on the ground, so we have snow in our mountains, but we don't have snow on the ground, so it's not that cold. It's not, we're still outside. We've got these horses as a project. We're also, for the first time, enjoying skiing. So we've got ski passes for our local mountain. So we're that's all new and very humbling, I might add. It was fall around the slopes my kids whiz on past. So that's a bit of a laugh. So that's our big project for the winter is that. So, yep, that'll keep us busy, I think, until October.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing some images with the new animals in your backyard, and yeah, really excited to see you, Niki. Thank you so much. We'll see you very soon. Well, how was that, guys? To learn more about Niki, she can be found at www.nikiboon.com. Connect with Niki and tell her what you thought, and tell us too. You can join the conversation using the hashtag #TheArcCreative and you can tweet us or add us on Instagram @ArcThisIs. We'd absolutely love to hear from you. One thing I wanted to spend some time is talking about Niki, the fact that she's coming from New Zealand and she's in Vancouver, BC to teach a private masterclass that is initially open to just the attendees for ARC, but now we've opened it up to the public. It is actually half sold out at the moment. So the class is called Tools for Building Stronger Storytelling Pictures. And in this, Niki is going to be discussing what is composition and how can it be used for effective and powerful visual storytelling, the psychology of seeing, intent and subject, light and shadow, and how to create layers for depth, visual interest and complexity, amongst so much more. Niki has a wealth of knowledge to share, and really encourage you to check this out by going to www.experience.thisisarc.co, where you can find out more about this masterclass and many more. Finally, thank you so much for your time, and to stay connected with us here at ARC, check us out on iTunes and subscribe for more shows coming up with the Grey North Collective, Catalina Jean, Shuam Geddes, and many more. If you're in the creative community or you know someone who'd enjoy the show, we'd love it if you could share a link with them. Thanks to all of you who continue to leave us reviews after our show released just a few months ago. And please continue to rate and leave a written review on iTunes. It really helps to get the word out there, and we really appreciate the feedback that we've been getting too. Once again, I'm your host, Sachin Khona, and with maximum love and gratitude on your creative journey, we'll catch you next week for another episode of the ARC Creative Podcast with my guest, Jacob Loafman. Peace.